What happened that time you saw the fury of a patient man? Me and a few of my friends used to frequent a pub in my hometown. It was a small place in the town center, a traditional English pub, complete with attractive barmaid and consistent regulars, us included. Every time we were in there, a guy would be sat at the bar, on his own, with a half of bitter. He'd occasionally join the banter, but was never loud or drunk. He was a nice bloke, always said hello and smiled. We knew him only as Ray. Now Ray was about 60, but fit, not big, just a normal-looking guy, a few forearm tattoos, pretty standard for the north of England in the 90s. One Saturday afternoon, me and 4 of my friends were having our usual couple of drinks. As it was Saturday, there was a football match on. 3 away fans walk into the pub, already a brave move, but this is a friendly place. Everyone eyes them suspiciously but carries on drinking. They walk to the bar and immediately start being horrible to the barmaid, making lewd comments, complaining loudly about the beer, etc. Ray looks at these 3 guys and says, "No need to be rude, boys, she's here to do a job." Cue a stream of verbal abuse from the away fans. "Shut the fuck up, granddad, what you gonna do about it?" etc. The regulars are having none of this. Everyone, me included, stands up and stares at these idiots. Ray turns to everyone and just says, "Sit down, lads, I'll deal with this." Turns to the away fans. "You 3 outside now." These 3 guys, obviously there for a fight anyway, are all, "Fucking come on then, granddad, let's go." They all walk out of the bar, and not 20 seconds later, Ray walks back in, without a word, sits back on his stool and sips his half of bitter. Curiosity got the better of us, so we all ran outside, to see complete carnage. 2 guys out cold on the pavement, one on his backside with blood pouring out of his nose. It turns out that Ray was ex-SAS, and the barmaid was his daughter. Gym class in high school. The quiet nerdy kid kept getting picked on during dodgeball. One jerk kept hitting him with balls even when he was already out. The quiet kid wasn't tiny, he was about average sized, maybe a little taller than average. He eventually lost his temper, ran across the court, and literally delivered a double-handed choke slam to the jerk. Being a bunch of teenage boys, we all lost our shit cheering for him. He got suspended for 3 days, but it was reduced to 1 day in school after a bunch of us went to principal and explained the circumstances. I had a football coach in HS who was a Marine in Afghanistan. Soft-spoken, never yelled at practice. If he had a point to make, the boys respected him enough to heed him without the need for him to raise his voice. Great guy. He got hit with an IED and fucked his arm up, got medically discharged. It's not like it's a gimpy arm like the dude from Scary Movie, but it has almost no strength, it's super sensitive, and super scarred. Didn't like people to touch it, even accidentally. One day before practice, a couple guys and I were talking with him when a couple freshmen decided to see what would happen if they came up behind him and grabbed it. Why? I don't know. I've never seen a man more angry than him. He screamed at them the whole practice, making them do grass drills, over and backs, shuttles, you name it. I don't know if maybe he had a lot of mental-related issues in regards to his arm or not, or maybe if it was painful to touch. But it reminded me this guy is a Marine who's seen and lived through battle, no matter how soft-spoken he is. When I was in high school, an upperclassman at my all-male student Catholic school followed a female teacher into the bathroom and tried to rape her. She screamed initially before he pulled a knife on her. The gentlest, most caring, socially awkward Latin teacher heard the scream and rushed from his classroom straight into the women's restroom. He clocked this kid across the face and dragged him out by his collar into the hall. Then he checked on traumatized female teacher. Later, he just went back to class and continued teaching as though nothing happened. Dude knows 7 languages, has never dated anyone, and is a brilliant, always calm man. People gained a lot of respect for him after that day. He's still really weird though. That's awesome of the teacher, but I'm just really disturbed that this dude tried to rape his teacher in the bathroom. What the fuck is wrong with some people? He deserved worse than a punch in the face, in my opinion. Back in uni, one guy I knew on greeting and small talk terms but not much more, was known as the literal rock against the waves. Childish freshmen picked on him for being retarded at all for ages and he just shrugged it off. You need to imagine him as a gentle giant, 6'9" and arms as thick as my thigh, but very sweet and lovable. Hobbies included caring for shelter kitties and posting reviews for oddly specific music theory books online. I eventually became friends with him, and we hung out sometimes, grabbing a coffee and such, and one day, we were avidly discussing something when 3 of the childish freshmen came by and pestered him. He informed them twice that we were currently talking and they should not disturb us, please and thank you, with foreseeable success, so he just shrugged and tried to continue our talk over their pestering. Frustrated that they did not succeed, one of them resorted to the last straw of a childish bully, and called his mother a whore. Fun fact, his mother died when he was 14, and he never fully came to terms with it. He took a deep breath, stood up, and grabbed the offender by his head, swinging him like a club at the others and kicking them into next Tuesday when they all were on the ground, before I and 2 others finally could pull him off, and he instantly calmed down. There are 3 things all wise men fear: the sea and storm, a night with no moon, and the anger of a gentleman. Patrick Rothfuss. My dad, about a decade ago while I was in high school, we lived on a hill, and if you go down the hill it leads into the main part of town where all the shops and stuff are, and if you go up over the other side it's where a lot of the bars and clubs are. It's quicker to go over than around, obviously. Back then my parents each had a car instead of sharing one, and only one space in the garage, and drunk idiots were constantly damaging Mom's car. Well, one night Dad happened to have a day off fall on the weekend, and he could hear a group of drunk people walking up the road. His little office computer room is at the very front of the house, so he gets up, goes out the front door, and just waits near the front lawn, watching. They're being loud, and pushing each other around. Mom's worried as fuck and comes to get me because she doesn't want him to get hurt by some drunk idiot, and I go out to see what he's doing. They end up pushing each other around more, and one bumps into the car is leaning on it, and the hood of the car. Dad tells them to get away from it. They start taunting him, so he walks closer toward them, and one of the little bastards clean smashes the side mirror off while laughing at him. Dad is a 6'8" ex-basketballer, basically is just all around fucking huge and is small man bait on a normal day. Dad hit him straight in the jaw, and you could see as his jaw completely broke, guy is immediately screaming and bawling his eyes out at the same time, while his friends pick him up and run away. Never heard from them again, or got in any trouble for it. Dad just went back inside and watched TV. My boyfriend is 6'8". I love when people harass him at bars when he's sitting down. He stands up and suddenly the whole tune changes. Oh sorry man, I was just kidding. Working in an auto parts warehouse, one of our managers was a very quiet, collected person. One particular day some of the orders were wrong and the ordering system was malfunctioning. He calmly goes out back, starts up a forklift, and rams at full speed at a huge stack of wood pallets. He must have thrown it in reverse and repeated this about a dozen times, raising and lowering the forks appropriately. Everyone stopped working to watch as every last pallet was destroyed. When there was only a pile of wood scraps left, he turned off the lift and calmly walked back in and continued working as if nothing happened. Twice in 20 years I've seen the fury of my very patient, docile and kind stepdad. The first time was when some 12th graders chased my brother and cousin all the way from school to our backyard, threatening their lives with pocket knives. Stepdad calmly walked to the backyard, grabbed the big kids by their throats and lifted them up, pinning them to the fence. "Stay the hell away from my kids," was all he said, in a calm, teeth-biting kind of way. The kids booked it faster than I've ever seen anyone run and never bugged my brother or cousin again. Then we all went inside and made burgers. The second time was in my angsty preteen years when I called my mother a bitch. He turned at me and I've never been so scared in my life. This time he was right pissed and screamed at me until I was backed up against our bar counter, shielding myself with the bar stool legs. The second he backed off slightly, I booked it into my bedroom and barricaded myself in with all the furniture I could find. Didn't come out for a solid day until I got up the courage to apologize. But he's a teddy bear, normally. I once was playing soccer on a local school area. After 8 p.m. the gates are closing, so we just agreed that we were going to leave after 8 p.m. because his was an honest kid, age 11. When it was like 7:59 a.m. friend of mine kicked the ball on the roof, not on purpose, of the school. Note: this was my brand new ball, so I really wanted it back. So I climbed on the roof of the school. But this was kinda hard, so it took longer than the 1 minute I had before the gates were closing. I finally got my ball, but by this time it already was 8:15. That's when I spotted my local police officer. I don't know the English word. A police office that only has a specific block. I know this guy because he's the policeman from my block. He started shouting my name that I need to get off that roof now because I was trespassing. So I panicked because a policeman was shouting at me. I climbed down the roof and the policeman told me that I was trespassing and that is against the law. I told him I just wanted my new ball and that I planned to get out of the gates at 8 p.m. But this guy was old and grumpy, so he asked for an ID card. Being 11, and in Holland the minimal age for an ID card is 14, I didn't have an ID card. So this MF took me to the local jail. So at this point me and 3 friends are sitting in a 2x2 jail cell. It had 144 bricks, 62 glass bricks, a metal door and a bed, no sheets. I'll never forget those numbers. So another agent started asking questions about a series of burglaries, and we just stood there with a "What a fact, we are 11 years old, mate" face. So the policeman said, "Well, if you're not going to talk, I guess we need to call your parents." The 4 of us were like, "Fuck, finally. We asked for this the first time you took us here." Well, we were crying, I won't lie. So I guess 20 minutes later I hear some noise in the distance. An older guy yelling to an officer. We were like, who could this be? Note: I grew up in a strict Christian family. Turned out it was my father yelling at the whole stations to release us because we were just playing soccer, and that those policemen were freaking stupid to think a group of 11-year-old was responsible for a series of burglaries. That was the first and last time I heard my dad say some swear words. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.